Hello, my name is David. Welcome to Sweet Figs. Today we're going to cover the whole process of rooting fig cuttings from start to finish. We're going to talk about how to get the cuttings, the rooting medium you have to use, container, preparing your cuttings, temperature, humidity, and all the tips that you need to keep your cuttings alive and thriving so you can get sweet figs the next year. These are the things that you're going to need to root your cuttings. Of course, you're going to need some good cuttings. A pruners to get your cuttings, some paraffin tape. This is a paraffin wax tape. We're going to talk about this next in the video and why it's important to use. This is optional. We're also going to use some rooting hormones. Right? We're going to talk about rooting hormones in a bit during the video. Containers. There's different types of containers you can use. And also, we're going to have some rooting medium. So cuttings, this is a really important step. You really need to try to get really good cuttings, right? There's different places where you can get them. You can get them from FigBit. You can subscribe to Facebook groups in California and some other parts of the country where you can find a lot of fig growers which are selling cuttings, right? I also would like to recommend my friend at ProFig. He sells really good cuttings at a very good reasonable prices, and he's a person that I personally know and trust. So now, what is a good cutting and what is a bad cutting? That is a really important question, right? Usually you should have cuttings that are fully lignified. This means that the wood is this year's wood, right? Or at least 1 year's old wood, right? It will be brown in color, right? And it will have well-developed buds. That's really important because these buds are gonna break and then give you leaves, right? So if you have a cutting that has very undeveloped buds, then it will be hard for producing leaves, and sometimes it will take more time, or sometimes it will never give you leaves, right? So that is really, really important. You can see this cutting has 5 nodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes, right? Ideally, you're gonna need a cutting with at least three nodes, right? Because we want to place 2 nodes underground, right, to develop roots. As you can see in the roots, in the nodes, you can see it has this little cells here in different color. These are where the roots are going to come from, right? So roots are going to come from the nodes. So that's why you need at least 2 nodes under the underground so you can develop the roots, right? These could be cut into 2 different cuttings, right? But we would have only 1 node here. You can do that also to maximize cuttings that get more chances, right? But if you keep all the tips that we're gonna check in this video, you're gonna see very good results, and you shouldn't have to cut your cuttings in half. Rooting medium, maybe that is one of the most important things in the rooting process, right? I have tried different rooting mediums in the past, and I have problems with rot and fungus and disease. So it's really, really important that you use a rooting medium that is inert, right? Inert means that it does not have any organic matter. It does not have any compost or any organic materials, right? Ideally, it should have only peat moss, perlite, coco coir, right? These are not organic materials, and this will not cause rot in your cuttings, right? We're gonna talk about humidity, which is another factor that causes rot, but having a mix that has good drainage is important, right? So one that I use is the Sunshine Professional Grow Mix. You can also use Pro Mix. You can use also coco coir, which is really good for retaining moisture. You can add perlite, right? The most important thing is that you have some drainage, and you can also retain some moisture, right? But you do not want organic materials in your rooting medium. You're gonna see that we're gonna disinfect our rooting medium, right? Some people might say this is overkill, right? But this still could be a very small chance of disease and fungus spores and fungus gnats on the rooting medium, even though it's sterile. So we're gonna use hot water or boiling water to hydrate the rooting medium, right? And that is gonna kill all the bacteria, all the fungus spores, and most of the things that could damage your cuttings. Then we're gonna let it cool off, and then we're gonna use it in our cuttings. Yeah, I know some people actually bake the ready medium to remove the some of the bacteria and stuff that could be here. I saw the millennial gardener do this. I like to use boiling water to hydrate my inert medium, right? Now, how much water you just add a little bit at a time, right? And then we're gonna let it rest. We're gonna move it around and let it cool, right? You do not want to use these directly in your cuttings right now. And then you can use one of these to move it around. Remember, this is it's quite hot, so you want to be careful. You want to move it around, right? So make sure everything is mixed, and you're gonna see that it has a different color, right? So when it's dry, it has a light brown color, and then when it's hydrated, right, it's gonna move to brown, dark brown color, right? So you want to move it around, right? Remember, this is hot, so you gotta use something to avoid burning yourself. So you can see that after adding more water, right, if I take some of the medium and squish it with my hands, there's no water coming out, but it can keep the form very well, and if you move it, it crumbles away. This is perfect. And then if you use the moisture meter, you're gonna see that it's all the way to the wet, but it's not wet, right? So this is the perfect moisture that you want in your soil for rooting. Rooting containers, right? There's different types of containers, you name it. You can use like party plastic cups, you can use fast food plastic cups, you can use clear plastic cups, right? I feel like these party cups, and I have used them in the past to root cuttings, these work, but these are very small, right? So if you have a vigorous tree growing here, you probably will need top high, right? And remember that these are delicate roots, right? So you do not want to play with them too much in the beginning, right? We're gonna learn that as the tree goes bigger and it's easier to manipulate, right? But when these are small, you don't want to do that. I bought these in the dollar store, and these were for $2. I opened some holes here with a drill bit, and these are clear cups. So these are super fun because you're gonna be able to see all the roots growing, right? And you will know that you are succeeding with your rooting process, right? Also, you can reuse them, so these can be reused many times, and these are very good. Also, very important, this one don't fall very easily. So these have a wide bottom, and these will not fall very easily, right? Another option, which is what most people use, is these tree pots, right? This is what these are called. These are 9 by 4 inches, right? These are what usually fig farms and nurseries send you figs, right? Using these tree pots, right? These are quite expensive, $1 and $2 each, right? So you might wanna, if you really wanna plant it to sell the tree, then this might help you because they help you with the shipping and all this stuff. But if you're just doing it for your house, for your own, you might need to use one of these smaller cups, right? Another very cheap option is these plastic cups from China. These are kind of resemble this one, but you can see this is more cheaper. These two tend to fall off very easily because the bottom is very narrow. So you have to be careful about that. This will fall very easily, right? So yeah, this is what I would recommend. I would go with this one or this one. So we're gonna talk about preparing the cuttings for rooting. This is a really important step. As I told you, cuttings have a leaf scar, right? And a fig scar. Sometimes if the cuttings are cut before the frost, right? You see that they might have some leaf stems and fig stems attached to the nodes, right? You want to remove those, right? Remember that we're trying to avoid putting organic matter into the mix, right? So the only organic matter that will be the cutting itself. But sometimes I've seen rot, right, and fungus around the small pieces of leaf stems and fig stems that are still attached to the cutting. So if the cutting was cut like a few days ago, you can very easily just remove them with your hand and just remove that. we're gonna talk about cleaning the cutting, right? Disinfecting the cutting. We're gonna wash the cutting with to remove any spores and anything like that. But also we're gonna disinfect the cutting, right? We're gonna use a 10% bleach solution, so it will be 1 part bleach, right, and 9 parts water, right? And we're gonna leave that there with a timer 10 minutes, right? So that is gonna help to disinfect any bacteria that could be in the cutting. Remember that this is coming, for example, this cutting is coming from the east, right, where it's very humid right now. There's a lot of rain, there's a lot of fungus spores, a lot of stuff going on there, right? And here it's fairly dry, California now. So it will be a really bad idea to just brush them and put them to root, right? So this is really, really important. So this is 9 cups of water, right? And then I'm gonna add 1 cup of bleach to the mix, right? So this is now a 10% solution, right? And then I'm gonna place my cuttings here to disinfect for 10 minutes, right? Remember to use a 10%, right? And in a limited time, right? I saw a video of tissue culturing, right? Which is how they make plants grow in a lab, right? And they took plant cuttings, right, to grow them, and they will disinfect them in 10% bleach solution to remove any bacteria or anything that can cause fungus and the cutting to rot. So this is not something new, and this will not damage your cuttings if you use a 10% solution in a limited 10 minutes, right? So we want to disinfect them, and then we'll be back in a few. Okay, now 10 minutes have passed, right? And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the cuttings from the bleach solution and scratch them very well with water, tap water. Okay, now when the cuttings are clean, I brushed them, all of them, I'm gonna pat them dry with a paper towel, right? This is really important because we're gonna put parafilm in the top part of the cuttings, right? And we don't want any humidity to be here in top of, under the parafilm grafting tape. Now, this is wax parafilm tape, right? This is not plastic tape, right? So this is one of the most important tips to use for fake cuttings. I've seen it in many videos from very experienced growers, like Ross the Fig Boss uses it, Jay Zacadura from Portugal uses it. So this is really important, right? And something very important why this is used is because there's a very limited humidity in the cutting, right? So if the cutting dries out, your chances of ruining that cutting goes away. So the parafilm helps with 2 things, right? It helps from keeping the moisture in the cutting, and because it's a waxed type of tape, right? It would allow the cutting to breathe, right, and retain the moisture, right? It would also prevent fungus spores to get into your cutting. So even if you, by any chance, you use a running media that has some fungus spores, right, you might see them in the soil, but actually not in the cutting itself, right? So this is really important. This is optional if you keep your cuttings in a bin in a very humid environment, right? Because this keeps the humidity in the cutting, right? Humidity and temperature, one of the most important things that you can that you will need to have very line up in order to get your cuttings to root, right? So this will help you to prevent your cutting from drying out, right? While it gets roots and start budding out, right? And absorbing water from the soil. So this is really important. And your cutting buds will be able to grow and break through this very easily without you having to remove the parafilm tape, right? If you have plastic, you will need to remove it because the buds will not be able to break through the plastic. Where to get this one? I asked my friend Brian, a prophet, and he told me to get it from Fitbit. And I will put the link in the description of the video. And this is the top is what is going to be covered in parafilm. Very important, when you use a parafilm, remember that every time you put it in top of a bot, you need to stretch it, right? So the bot is only covered by stretch thin piece of parafilm and not the parafilm by itself, right? That is gonna allow them to break through very easily. So here, you're gonna see where I'm gonna use the parafilm. So you wanna go around here. You have no problem here because here we have it. And then a note is coming, so you stretch it. You see here, this is a stretch, single layer parafilm, right? And then again, you go here, and you stretch it. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the hold of it, it's actually quite simple to do it. And then you just go and pull it at the end, and this is ready. So you will see that, you can see that here is more thick parafilm, but here in the nose, I use a stretch, single stretch layer of parafilm. So the bots will be able to break through this very easily, okay? Rooting hormone. This is really important, I think, because it will speed up the process of your cuttings, putting more roots, right? I have used these two, right? I have used powder, rooting hormone. Both have worked very well for me. I think the Clonix, which is a gel paste, you're gonna see in a bit how I apply this to the cuttings. It's better, and I see roots developing way faster with the Clonix, right? And I have seen these used by many experienced fig growers on YouTube and in and out the country. So this seems to be like really the best option for rooting hormone. Like I said, if you keep the temperature right and the humidity constant, you will get roots without the rooting hormone, but these will get you root faster. So before we apply the rooting hormone, you're gonna see many fig rooting videos that they remove bark or they score the bottoms with a knife, right? I've seen that like one of the best results that I getting is by just scratching the notes, right, near the base. This is where the roots are gonna form. You see all these white dots? This is where the roots are gonna form. So we want to scratch here and here, and then apply the rooting hormone. Now, before you scratch, remember that we have to disinfect everything. So it is really important that we use an alcohol solution and disinfect the knife. So you're gonna do that, and we also gonna use the pruning shears to cut the bottom of the cutting. So remember always to disinfect this with alcohol, right? Remember, we want to have as clean as sterile process as we can, right? So, you know, this was the part that was actually supposed to be bleach. So it's always advised, and you see this in the teacher culturing videos, right, to remove cut that bottom part, right? So we don't have that that layer that was exposed to the bleach, right? And then we're gonna scrape in the nodes, and then we're gonna continue scraping here in the nodes, right? Just a little scratch here, right? And then once we have that, we're gonna use, I have like a, let me show you. This is the gel base rooting hormone. As you can see here, it's a gel, right? And we're gonna apply this into the cutting, right? All the parts that we scratched, and these are the ones that are gonna be in the soil. We're gonna add rooting hormone to all this section right here. Remember, we don't want to dip the cutting into the rooting hormone. We want to use just a little bit to cover all the areas, right? And then very important, we're gonna let these dry for a few minutes before we put them into the pot. Now, temperature. One of the most asked questions is, what temperature do I have to keep my cuttings to root, right? Um, the sweet spot is between 75 and 80 degrees, right? I personally have set mine to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, right? That will usually gives me roots in the first 2 weeks, right? So by day 12, you're gonna start seeing roots. Sometimes even in the first week you get roots. So 77, it seems like the sweet spot for me, right? Now, how do you achieve this? If you're rooting your cuttings in the greenhouse in April or May, it's gonna be easier to achieve that in the outside, right? But if you're doing this in the winter, right, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Usually the house temperatures are around 72, 70, right? So it's a little bit in the lower side, right? So I would recommend to get a heat mat if you're doing this in the winter, right? Especially a heat mat with a sensor, with a temperature sensor, right? That would allow you to make sure you have the right temperature inside of your cups, right? And your containers, right, where you're running your cuttings. You don't have to wonder about that. So that is really important. Humidity is another factor that is really, really important when running your cuttings. Ideally, it should be between 70 to 80% humidity, right? So if you go to the 90 or to 100% humidity, you're gonna get like a lot of humidity, and they can usually range into mold and fungus. So that's really, really important. So for checking the temperature is easy because you already have the heat mat and you have the sensor, right? And you can control that. But the humidity is a little bit hard, right? If you really want to control it, want to make sure you are in the right humidity levels, I recommend getting one of these temperature and humidity sensors from Amazon. This was like $4, right? So it's very cheap, and it will give you the humidity and the temperature of that room or that container where you have your cuttings, right? I'm gonna show you my setup in a few, so you will be able to see where I have my cuttings and when I place the sensor. Okay, here I'm gonna fill this tripod. These ones are bigger, so you tap a little bit to get it compact, so it compacted. Once you have decent soil, you're gonna put a little hole in the center. And I'm gonna place the cutting, right? And the cutting goes all the way until you see the power film, right? So that's where you're gonna keep your cutting from going, right? To keep some space there, so you can have a little bit more maybe to compact it to the sides. And that's it. Remember to always add a label to your tree so you never lose track of which tree is which, right? So here's one of the cuttings. I have the cuttings that I rooted inside a plastic bin, right? And then I place all my cuttings here, right? I like the plastic bin because the plastic bin is gonna allow me to control the humidity, right? And something very interesting, you can see I like these clear cups because you will be able to see when your cuttings will need water. You can see all this condensation and humidity here. That tells me that this soil is moist and I don't have to water the cuttings, right? Watering cuttings is kind of tricky, but the plastic cups really help you to know when this is dry. You see no humidity, no water drops here. This will tell you right away that this is dry and it's watering, right? Be careful to not overwater the cuttings. If you follow my instructions and have the soil with the right moisture to start with, you will not have to add a lot of water, right? And then I will place them here, right? Now we'll place a lid on top, right? Now these do not have to be airtight, right? So you just need to put it over so it keeps some humidity. I usually leave some space open here so we don't have the 90 and 100% humidity that we talked about, right? So this some humidity will escape through here, and we have a good environment for the cuttings. So one of the best tips that I can give you is have patience, right? These two cuttings that you see right here, I started reading them on October 12th, right? And these decided to bud out until today, until last week, I think, and they started growing and they're very healthy, right? They were getting even roots out of the medium, but they were not leaves. So the best the scenario number one is having roots and all leaves. That's really good. If you have leaves that you don't have any roots, that's when you have a problem. So that is really important to point out. Is that you can see right here where the bud broke through the parafilm tape. So I just wanted to showcase that to you guys, that if you use a single layer, stretched layer of parafilm on your cutting bud, this will not harm or prevent the cutting from leaving out. So just wanted to point that out. So here I have a heat mat set to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And I have it in I have the sensor in one of my pots, right? I get it like 2 to 3 inches inside the pot, right? So I have a good reading of the temperature of the cuttings, and these are doing very well. This helps a lot, so you don't have to worry about, turning off your heat mat or turning on. It automatically will do it for you. And I connected 3 different heat mats to the same sensor, so all 3 get activated at the same time. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys really like the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. Making this video took a lot of work and research. And also there will be upcoming some very interesting videos on how to water fig cuttings, how to fertilize the fig cuttings, and also how to uppot them, right? And some other important experiments. If you guys are doing something different, are getting very good results, please comment down below so we can all learn from each other. Thank you for watching.